Hi there, Adrian here, mortgage broker based in Sydney. On this channel we talk about all things investments, finance and lending. Now this particular video we're going to focus on a LinkedIn post that I did only recently. Now it focuses on some McCrindle research around the top quintile, so the top 20% of households, what their income is and what is their actual wealth of those households. So if we have a look at this, I'll just go into the article. We've got the total income of the top 20% is $280,000 or more. And then if we have a look at the net wealth that they've got is 3.2 million total. That's the total assets. And if we go into the actual article, I'll read through it right now. We're looking at, let's go ahead and I'll read it and then I'll give you some context. So these two graphs show you the income isn't the problem. Over 20% of households in Australia are earning more than $280,000 a year. So what is the problem? That same top 20% quintile only holds average wealth of 3.2 million, i.e. more than 50% of their wealth is in their family home with little to no investments. I.e. the majority of the highest earning quintile does not have financial freedom. They are still on the get a job, save, put money into super, retire at age 65 like everyone else on the wheel of life. But let's be honest, what really happens is income comes in and then expenses go out because of personal choices and keeping up with the Joneses. Income rich, but after expenses poor. Less than 1% of all property investors own more than 6 properties currently in this country. All right, so let's talk about this a little bit. So this says that the top 20%, and a lot of those households are going to bulk be in Sydney and Melbourne, and then the top kind of 3% total, maybe 5% of maybe a Perth, a Brisbane and some outlying areas. But the bulk of them would be in the Sydney and the Melbourne market because that's where the bulk of the population is in this country. Now let's talk about a person in Sydney. If you're on those kind of incomes, you're in the more affluent areas. So you're within a 30k, say, radius of Sydney. Now, even if you're on the fringe of that 30k radius, we're now seeing $1.5 to $2 million properties very easily. Let's go northwest. We're looking at the Pennant Hills area. Let's go north, well past Chatswood and places like that. There's a large Chinese population there. Let's go southwest. Anything that's kind of before Liverpool is priced very highly. Okay, as soon as you go past that juncture in Liverpool, the prices become a little bit cheaper. And then to the south, if you're looking at anywhere from the St George area to the Sutherland Shire area, you can't really get into a lot of the places for less than 1.5 mil for an average house at the moment. And my parents are in the south and you can't even get into their suburb for the worst house, small block, for less than 2 million at the moment. All right, so if we've got that situation where income is $280,000, why can't they achieve financial freedom? And it comes down to life choices. Because let's be honest, everyone wants to operate life in a very specific way. So what they do is they leave school, they get educated, they go through uni. Society tells them that when they come out, they should get married, they should have some kids, they should buy the owner-occupied $1 to $2 million property. They should strive in their job, work hard, build up slowly, increase their income, put money into super, have that holiday per year, okay, because obviously you've deserved it, you've worked hard, and then retire at age 65 on the wheel of life. That's what life tells you. And on the way, let's get a couple of toys, let's get boats, let's get cars, let's put everything on car finance at 5 to 8%. Okay, a lot of people, if you're in my area or in South Sydney, you've got so many households that have 2 SUVs priced between 80 to 120 grand, and in the more affluent areas, everyone's driving a Range Rover over 150 grand. So let's be completely honest, that's what we're seeing in society, and then we wonder why not a lot of people get financial freedom. So let's use me as an example. So I'm age 34, my wife's age 28. Right now, we've rent vested for the first 3 years while we've been buying investment properties, so we're into our third year now. We've got six investment properties, and we're just about to search for our seventh. Okay, right now our household income is not in the top quintile, so we're between, say, the top tax bracket and 215,000, somewhere in between there. Because I'm not going to say what my exact income is for the last tax year, but if you include my mortgage broking income and you include my business expenses, and then come out with a net income with the salary and wages, and then you add that to my wife's accountancy income, it's somewhere around there. So I'm in excess of 70, 80 or 90,000 off the top quintile right now. Now, obviously my business has been doing quite well. So in the 2022 financial year, I'll be in the top quintile, but how I've gotten to 6 to 7 investment properties is based on my 2021 figures. Okay, so I'm a living example on how you can get 7 investment properties in the last 2 and a bit years on income less than $215,000 total combined income for a household. Now, how have I done that? I've gone against conventional wisdom. I've rent vested. Okay, so I've had family, I've had friends, I've had so many people telling me how I should rule my life, how society tells me I need to live life in a certain way. Okay, I've left a salary job about five and a half years ago. I used to work in a margin lending desk in ComSec, and then I was a Big Four banking lending for home lending in the Sydney eastern suburbs, and then I left a salary and good commission role to become a mortgage broker, start from scratch, and I've now been in lending now for about 13 years. All right, so I've built a business up from the ground for the last kind of 4 to 5 years, always been on ABN. And really, I took the risk to do that to 3, 4 or 5x my income to get to the point where, I can now safely say that I'm probably about, say, less than 18 months away from financial freedom. I can honestly say that on my 2021 financial year's tax returns, I'll be maxing out at 7 properties, anywhere between 3 to 3.3 million total. I'll have income on that portfolio once I put all the granny flats in of circa 190 to say 205 total income per year, so 205,000 income on the total portfolio. There is a mixture of properties in there. I've got 2 units in there. I've got 1 dual key in there. I'll have 3 houses which I'll put granny flats on the back, and I'll have 1 standalone house. So the total yields that I'll come out with is give or take about 6% rental yield. Okay, I am invested across 2 separate states in New South Wales and Queensland at the moment. So my wife and I, we're leaving Sydney and moving up to Brisbane soon. So when we buy our 7th property, we'll actually be moving in and living in the property. But let's talk about how we did it, because I find you see what a lot of people do, and they're being transparent, which is great, especially on YouTube compared to the majority. But at the end of the day, a lot of them don't talk about their income, and a lot of people don't talk about, what happened in their portfolio to get their deposits. So look, I'm a living example on how you can build a property portfolio in excess of 3 million under age 35, and by the time, let's say by March or April of next year, I'll have 10 to 12 properties, and everything will be maxed out. I'll be sitting on about 400 grand rent total across the whole portfolio, a portfolio of about 5.5 million total. Okay, and if you look at the kind of the design of that portfolio and how we got there, I've got to be completely honest with you. The first property was contract price 440 and it's now worth 700, and I only purchased that at the end of 2020 in December. So if that property didn't pump as high as it did, I wouldn't have bought as quickly as I have. So one of the properties was actually funded based on the top up and cash out based on that first property. Second and third property were out of my savings, which was at the end of 2021. So that was the second and the third property. And the fourth one was again out of my savings. So the fourth one was very close to that in January or February of 2022. And that one, the fourth one, settled, what was it, about a week and a half ago. So we've got the 4 properties we've signed on for 2 units, again in Queensland, that are quite cheap with very high yields. So the money that came for that is based on a revaluation and pulling money out of the fourth one almost straight away after settlement. So I would consider my fourth property to be what's called a unicorn property. You can't really replicate or find this deal again on the market. So I purchased that for 430 and revalued it at 700,000, and I pulled out about 115,000 off that one, up to 72% LVR, and then I'll be pulling out another 8% in the next kind of month and a half. So total, I'm taking out my deposit, I'm taking out total about 165 to 170 out of my fourth one, and the rental yield off the initial numbers on that dual key fourth one that I purchased was sitting at about 8.9% with 0 strata. So it was a dual key investment, 5 years old with a depreciation schedule. So kind of the best of both worlds. You can't get that high income anywhere, you can't get that kind of yield anywhere, and you can't get that kind of buy at 430, revalue it with a bank valuation at 700 anywhere. So I realize that I can't replicate that deal. All right, so I wouldn't be going for 7 right now. I'd probably be about 4 months still away from the 7th if I wasn't able to pull that money out of the first and pull the money out of the fourth. All right, so as far as deposits go, you understand the timeline. My first one was December 2020. My 7th one will be this month or next month. So we're talking about a period of time of around 2 years, give or take. All right, so people think that it's not achievable. People think that the banks are stopping borrowing power. People think that you can't do it in the now's day and age. People think that it's only the older people on the higher incomes that can do this. People think that if they're on 200,000, that's just enough for an owner-occupied. All of that is false. And I'll be completely honest with you. My wife and I, we're very different from a lot of people. We don't have any credit cards right now, no personal loans, no car loans, no HEX debt, no zip pay, no afterpay. We've essentially, the only liabilities that we've gotten during the period of time that we've been buying is investment debt. All right, so here's a living, breathing example of someone that's done this in the last 2 years, that's under age 35, that's dealt with the major banks, gotten the borrowing power that they needed, showing you where the deposits are coming from, showing you, you know what my income is within kind of a 20-30 grand mark and what it is. And yes, I am very honest with you, it has gone up from the 2021 period, but at the end of the day, I'm showing you that I'm going to have financial freedom inside of the next 2 years, and I'm only age 34. Now, everything that I've done up until this point is a very specific choice that I've made to get to where I am. And I find that a lot of people, they live their life on autopilot without goals, without striving for something, without doing things in a very systemized way to get the results that you want. Because a lot of people, what they do is they take advice from society, or they take advice from their family, or they take advice from the person in business or the accountant or the fin planner. And really, you need to look at their life and see what they're doing and what outcomes they've gotten in their life. All right, if they haven't done what you're planning to do, and they haven't shown you their outcomes, or even better, if they have shown you where they are in life and what their outcomes are, and especially if they're not doing exactly what they're telling you to do, then obviously why would you follow them? And let's be completely honest here. We're just looking at graphs right now with family household incomes on 280,000, and the vast majority of them are not financially free. Okay, so income is not the problem. Life choices is the problem, and where you get advice from. That's the problem. So I'm showing you based on a just over the top tax bracket what you could potentially do to get to the next stage in life. So a lot of people, what they're doing right now, and I'm seeing it with a lot of different buyers agents and a lot of the different kind of material I'm seeing online on LinkedIn and on YouTube, is people chasing things for the now and not understanding what the 30-year risk is. So I'll give you a couple of examples. So you're never going to see me chasing 7, 8, 9% yields for property in these small little dinky regional towns that are an amazing bargain right now. So I'll list them off right now. Bundaberg, Townsville, Toowoomba, Mackay, Gladstone, anywhere around there. Now, one flood later, your property's gone. 2, one mine closes and you're gone. Okay. 3, anything happens to the major works or a major employer around the town, you're gone. All right. So for me, I've got a very basic approach that I like. Okay, I like staying in major cities. So the first property I had was just outside of Newcastle, which is one of the major ones close to Sydney, and I was looking at the Wollongong market as well. That was where my first buy was. My second, my third, my fourth, my fifth, my sixth, my seventh is all in Brisbane, and I look at basic things like 3-bed, 1 bath, 1 car in a council that allows granny flats and makes it easy for me to put them on. Okay, so every suburb I'm in has less than a 1% vacancy. Every block that I've got is around 700 square meters or slightly more or slightly less. Every one of them has side access and the ability to put a granny flat on it. Okay, now some of them I can only put 1-bedder granny flats, some I can put 2-bedders on. So look, I'm not here chasing these 6, 7, 8, 9% yields in these other markets and then being affected by economic factors. I'd rather be in a major city, be very conservative, sitting on a 5.5 mil portfolio that goes up on average over a 30-year period, maybe 5%. So every year it would go up 275 grand. All right, that's tax free. I never sell. I only refinance and I top money back up and then either use it for my personal expenses or I use that for my future investments that I'm going to make. All right, you never sell property, because if you sell property, you've got to sell it, you've got to pay a sales commission, then you've got to pay a capital gains, then you've got to pay income tax, then you've got to pay stamp duty to buy back in, then you've got the appropriate loan costs with buying back in. Okay, so if you come out with a 250 grand gross profit and you essentially want to go ahead and make a buy again back in, you're only essentially buying in for less than half after everything takes a hit. So really, I don't really know why other people sell at all. If it's a cash producing asset, hold it for life, transfer it to your kids, never sell it. The only ones that I really would say maybe sell, if people were silly enough to buy some of these units in really big high-rise close to the city and they got hit really hard with COVID-19 with reductions in rent and things like that. That's the only real time that I would consider selling, and it would really be just to get out because the market's so bad. All right, so my portfolio and how I'm doing, doing and running my life is very different from what the majority do in theirs. And if you see the outcomes that I get in my life compared to others, you start wondering why you're taking advice from people that clearly aren't showing what they're doing, and obviously they're not getting the outcomes that they want in their lives. All right, so there's definitely not an income problem in this country. There is a problem with how people look at the way and how things should be done in this society and what order it should be done in. They don't talk about money enough, they don't talk about investing enough, and they don't have the right guidance from the right people that are showing you that they're doing it themselves. All right, really hope that you've enjoyed this video. Please hit that subscribe button. Please hit that like button. Please leave me a comment if you're liking this type of content, and we'll see you on the next video. All right then, bye.